All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today, I am going to be continuing the 12 weeks of total immersion with another webinar. Hopefully, this one will be full of tips that you guys can just take on. And I'm going to hit the mute button real quick. Okay, good. I hit the mute button. Hopefully that'll just give us a little bit more of clarity when it comes to the sound. So I want to talk about powerful listing presentations. I'm not going to just go through, okay, and do a listing presentation for you on this particular webinar, but what I want to talk to you about is the listing presentation is in stages. There's all kinds of stages to a powerful listing presentation. And in each stage, there are some very significant things that you want to accomplish. Okay, so at each stage in the listing presentation, there are very significant things you want to accomplish in order to put yourself in a much better position to win a listing. Again, we're going to be discussing for the next little bit powerful listing presentations, and I'm going to break it down. So let's just go ahead and get right into it so we don't take too much of your time during the day. The first stage that I want to discuss is the pre-appointment discussion. Like before you go on the listing presentation, the conversation that you have prior to going, I call it the pre-appointment discussion. There are a few things that you need to accomplish in the pre-appointment discussion. And it's important to understand, the listing presentation starts before the actual listing presentation. In other words, if you're a seller and you're talking to an agent about the possibility of that agent coming over and looking at the home and discussing what it's going to take to get a property sold, when you're actually talking to them for the first time, you as a seller, you're already making some judgments. You're already making some decisions. You're already determining whether or not, do I like this person? Is this person sound like somebody I could work with? In other words, you're on the presentation the first time you ever speak with them. So there's a few things, though, that you need to accomplish during this phase, during the pre-appointment discussion. Number one, you must know why they are selling. Now, this happens, I see this all the time, where for some reason an agent doesn't ask, why are you selling? And the reason why they don't ask, why are you selling, I think is because they don't know maybe the proper way to ask that question. Like this, I'm curious, John. I mean, why are you considering selling? In other words, like, why are you considering selling? Like, I really want to know.
Why is it not connected?
Because without knowing, there's no possible way. Hold on one second. We've got somebody here. Mute. Can you, Abe, can you put her on mute? Okay, sounds like she's on mute now. So in other words, so one of the key things that you want to be able to ask, that you need to know during the pre-appointment discussion, is why they are selling. You see, here's the point. Like, if you don't know why they're selling, that would be like a surgeon not knowing why they're doing surgery. Like, when a doctor or a surgeon is talking to a patient, they've got to know, why is that patient in there? What are we looking to accomplish? Those are things that you have got to know. And if you do not know that, then you may actually be trying to accomplish something that is not the goal of the seller. So why are you selling? So I'm going to give you a few examples. Somebody, if I was going to say, I'm just kind of curious, why are you considering selling?
I have no choice but to listen to him now.
Can you, Abe, bear with me, all participants.
Just muted her again, sorry.
Okay, no problem, thank you. Okay, so for instance, if I was to ask you why you are selling, and you were to say to me, well, unfortunately, I'm going through a divorce and the judge has ordered a sale. Or if I was to ask you that question and the seller's answer was, well, if we could get a high price, everything's for sale. Now, if you ask the question, I'm just kind of curious, why are you selling? And you were to get those two answers for two different sellers, which seller do you think would have the most motivation? The one that's being forced by the judge to sell the property versus the one that's telling you, well, everything's for sale at the right price. And so what ends up happening, sometimes we go on listing presentations and we don't really know the motivation behind them. We don't know how serious they are. We don't know if selling is something that they might do or selling something that they will do. In addition to that, identifying how motivated they are, you'll get a better understanding of what goal you're helping them reach. Even the person that says, well, I'm just selling if I can get a good price. Well, then at least you would know if you went on that presentation that they're really going to be focusing on price. They're really going to focus on price. And if they don't get a certain price, they may hold off. The person that may be selling because they're going through a divorce, they're probably not going to focus as much on price, even though that price will be important. The first guy example, price will be everything. But when you're dealing with a divorce sale, price is sometimes everything in the beginning, but it turns into a time issue. Over time, if they don't get the price, they'll reduce that price because they need to sell this home in order to kind of clear out their relationship, to detach from each other. Okay? So the person who's going through a divorce is going to be much more motivated. Now, somebody else may say, well, we just don't really, we need a bigger house. So why is that important? The reason why it's important, because when you're talking in the listing presentation, while you're there face-to-face, you'll be able to say some things like, once we choose a price, we'll be able to go ahead and put this on the market, get it sold, and most importantly, go ahead and help reposition you into a much bigger house so your family can kind of breathe and have breathing room and not be on top of each other. You see, like when you know why they're selling, what's the motivation behind the transaction, then you can build that dialogue into your presentation. And when you find out, like on this pre-presentation conversation, why they're selling, and then you bring that back up in the presentation when you're face-to-face with them a couple days later, what's going to happen is they're going to say things to themselves like, oh, he remembered. Oh, he's a good listener. Oh, he's here to help me reach my goals. He understands me. And all of those things are critical in building rapport and trust and helping them become more comfortable with hiring a real estate agent like yourself. So step number one in the pre-appointment discussion is you must know why they are selling. And everyone will have a slight different reason. You need to understand why. Now, it's not your job to judge why they're selling. It's insignificant what you believe about why they're selling. What's significant is that you understand why they are selling. Just like a surgeon would understand why they are performing that operation. Number two, you must know what price they're hoping to get. You got to know what price they're hoping to get. And so you have to ask them. You could just simply ask them, I'm just kind of curious, what price are you hoping to get for the property? So this is before you even go over. See, you got to imagine I'm talking to you and about potentially selling, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Well, tell me a little bit about the property. What kind of updates have you done, if any? And then they start talking about their property. Well, how many bedrooms and baths is? They talk about their property. Any features or benefits that you feel can help your property sell for a little bit more money than the competition. See, these are all questions you can ask in that pre-presentation conversation. And through that process, they're just giving you all kinds of information. And in the middle of all that, I'm like, wow, the house is really sounds nice. I'm excited to see it when I come out to, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. But let me ask you this. I mean, what kind of price are you hoping to get for the property? Now, some of you are probably thinking, oh my gosh, they'll never answer that. Well, let me tell you, they will answer it all the time. They will always answer it. It all comes down to, just like the why are you selling, it comes down to how you deliver the question. I said to you after you started telling me all about this beautiful home that you described, I said, wow, this is, sounds like a really nice home. I can't wait to see it in person, Wednesday at 3 o'clock when I come out. I am kind of curious though. I mean, what kind of price are you hoping to get for it? Well, we know on Zillow, it says it's worth $225,000 and realtor.com says it's worth $200,000. We're hoping somewhere in that range, but we'd like to know what you think. Okay, good. So just by me asking that question, I know that they're on the internet. I know they're on Zillow. I know they're on realtor.com. I know that they've seen those Zestimates and estimates out there. And I know that they're thinking somewhere in that range. So let's just say they were thinking 200,000. Now, if I was to do my homework before I go over to the listing presentation and I discovered I could get them 250,000, like let's just assume in this hypothetical that the prices that were on the internet were grossly underpriced, that I can get them 250,000. When I go over to that presentation to do the presentation and I'm talking to them about price, I'm more likely to say, one of the things I'm really excited about is to talk to you about price. Because I know, you're hoping somewhere in that $200,000 range, maybe a little bit more, but I've done some really good research and I believe that we can put this thing on the market for $249,900 and get this thing sold. And let me share with you why. And then I show them a spreadsheet. But that would be the energy that I would bring to the conversation, my demeanor. Now, let's just say on the flip side, they said 200,000 and I found out it's only worth 175. Well, I'm not going to go in there and say, oh, I'm so excited to talk to you about the pricing of your property. I know you are hoping somewhere in this range, but I can get you this much. See, I wouldn't say that, right? Because now I know I'm having to deliver a price that might be disappointing to them. So I'm going to deliver that presentation a little differently. I'm going to go in and say something like, hey, obviously we need to talk about price. Price, marketing, and condition of the property are three critical components to getting a property sold. The condition is fantastic. My marketing plan is on point, it's aggressive, and I know it can create demand for your property. I think what we really have to figure out is what exactly our strategy is going to be on pricing. I know you mentioned somewhere around 200,000, and I know Zillow and Realtor.com said this, but I want you to take a look at this spreadsheet because unfortunately, what we're dealing with is we're dealing with information on a spreadsheet in the MLS that's a little bit lower than that 200,000, and I just wanted to talk that through. So the way that I'm presenting price when I know it's lower than what they told me they were hoping to get, I'm a little bit more sympathetic. I'm a little bit more, I'm not as excited. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about price. I'm also going to be, oh, I'm so disappointed I have to tell. I'm not going to be, I'm so disappointed. I'm not going to be like that. But the key is, because I asked the question and you answered the question, I had a good idea on what I was going to be facing in terms of a conversation when I go out to see you. See, too often, I'd say 90% of the time, across the country, it's probably 99% of the time, agents don't ask, I'm just kind of curious, what are you hoping to get for your property? Number one, they don't ask because they're afraid they're going to get an answer like this. Well, I don't know, you're the realtor, why don't you tell me? Isn't that your job? So some agents are afraid to ask for fear of that. But if somebody said, well, yeah, it is definitely my job, and I am going to come to you, come to the presentation very, very prepared. But I'm just kind of curious. I mean, are you hoping to get over or under $200,000 for that property? Oh, no, it's got to be over that. Okay, well, good. What kind of price are you hoping to get? Well, it's got to be at least 220. It's like they'll all ask. I mean, they'll all answer. They all will. Don't get thrown off by their little, sometimes they'll just have a little comeback at you and say, well, isn't that your job? It is my job, and that's one of the things that I'm really going to focus on and why I'm asking you some questions right now. So you're going to know what they want to sell, and that's going to prepare you for the dialogue. Have you ever wished that, somebody called you in or called you and says, hey, I really need to talk to you. And some of you probably have God, I really wish I knew what the conversation was going to be about so I could be prepared. If you've ever been in that type of situation, this is that situation. It just helps you become better prepared. If somebody tells you a high price or a low price, that should never influence the price you tell them, because you're going to tell them the truth. It only influences your delivery of how you tell them. That's very important. We haven't even gotten to the presentation yet. These are things that you need to be doing. The third one I have here, still under the pre-appointment discussion, is you must know what they are looking for in an agent that they're going to choose. So I could say this, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, what are you going to be looking for? What do you need to know? Or what are you looking for in the agent you're going to choose to sell your property? So this is assuming that they're going to talk to other agents, and they are likely to be talking to other agents. And at the minimal, they are researching other agents on the internet, reading all kinds of things on profiles about real estate agents. So it's always important to know, what are you looking for in the agent you're going to choose and trust to help you get your property sold. Now, at this time, they may say something like this: well, I want somebody who can show me what it's really worth. Okay. Now, if somebody says, I want somebody that can show me what it's really worth, then you as an agent need to hear that term show and understand that they're likely going to be the person that's going to want to see you validate whatever you say. In other words, don't go in there and say, oh yeah, I can get you $200,000, and then not bring in a spreadsheet that shows them how you're going to be able to get the $200,000. See, me asking, what are you going to be looking for in an agent? And they say, well, I'm going to be looking for somebody who, can show me what the property's worth. Then that means I must be prepared to actually bring some sort of external data or spreadsheet to convince them or to validate for them what I'm saying. So you can see, if I already know why they're selling, and you could see that I kind of know what price they're thinking, and now I know what they're looking for in an agent. When I go into that presentation, I know that they're looking for Superman. So when I go into that presentation, I'm going to have my Superman outfit. Now, they actually may say other things, answer differently on what they're wanting and why they're selling and what they're looking for. They may not want Superman to come in and list their home. They may want Batman to list their home. So guess what I'm going to have? I'm going to have my Batman suit on. How do I know what suit to wear? How do I know what presentation to make? They're going to tell me within these 3 questions. They're going to tell me what they want. So I'm not going in blind about the pricing conversation. They're going to tell me on price. They're going to tell me what they want in an agent. So I'm not telling them how great I am at market analysis, and they don't care about market analysis. They only care about marketing. They will say things like this. You're going to get this when you ask, I'm just kind of curious, what are you looking for in the agent you choose? You'll probably see 50% of the time, they're going to say, well, I just want somebody that can sell my home. Well, great. And the unfortunate thing about the real estate industry is every agent you ask if they can sell, they're going to say they can sell your home. So amongst all the agents that are going to tell you that, what specifically will you be looking for that'll kind of help you choose one versus another? Well, I want somebody, the last agent I spoke with, or that listed my property, they listed it and never called me. I want somebody that's good on communication. I'd really like somebody who's going to, be honest with me about price and not just give me a high price so I'll list with them. Or I really want somebody who's going to get a lot of showings. I didn't have any showings the last time. So when you ask them this question, they'll give you kind of an understanding of what it is that they want, and they'll surely tell you what they don't want. In their dialogue, usually what they're thinking is, I don't want an agent like this. So then they may not say it like, I don't want an agent like this, but they'll say, the last agent didn't get any showings. They hardly brought anybody by. I think I only had 2 showings in like 4 months. I want an agent that can show it. Yes, they want an agent that can show it, but they don't want to be in another relationship that felt like the last relationship. So knowing how their last relationship felt will give you a better clue as to what you need to do for them. So in that particular scenario, I'd say, look, I hear this all the time. so many times people will list a property and it's kind of like set it and forget it. They set it in the MLS and then they forget about it. And then you're kind of left outside on the outside wondering, has something happened? Are they working for me? Are they still in business? Is anybody even calling on my property? So one of the things that we do, because we hear that complaint about the industry so much, one of the things that we do is when we have you listed, you're going to receive this report, and then this report, and you're going to receive this report. And then every 21 days, I'm going to have it on the calendar to reevaluate your property as if it's a brand new listing and reach out and touch you and talk to you about what's going on, maybe explain the showing reports that you're getting, and talk a little bit more about feedback. Is that the type of communication that you're looking for? Oh gosh, that would be great. Sometimes me just knowing what they're looking for in an agent and then talking to them about how I'm that type of agent, that wins the listing right there. Because most sellers know that the price is the price. The market sets the price. Our job is really to inform them on what the market indicates the price is, but then our job is really to market their property and stay in communication and give them feedback. So if they need to make any adjustments along the way, we're the first ones to tell them about those adjustments. So number 3 was making sure that you understand what they're looking for in an agent. So now I know why you're selling. Now I know what price you're hoping to get. And I use the term hope, not saying what price do you want. I use the term, what price are you hoping to get? Because it feels like, it's almost like, I won't use the term dreaming, but hoping is under dreaming. So just in case they tell me a price that's really high, then I can say, I know you hope this, but we have to actually look at the market itself. Versus I always felt like if I said, well, I know you want this, but I'm not going to be able to give it to you because the market, and then I didn't want to say, well, I know you're a dreamer, but you're not going to be able to get that. I just thought that hope was the appropriate way to ask the question. So take that, use that particular word. Now let's talk about we've gotten off the phone. We have an appointment tomorrow. We talked about 3 things that you must know before you go on a presentation. Now there's a gap of time between the time we talked about set the appointment for the presentation and the time that we're going on the presentation. And I'm going to label this phase the pre-appointment deliverables. What do you need to do or deliver in between, in this gap? And it's very simple. Number 1 is you want to actually send them a video, and I recommend you text them a video. Now, this is a video that you should record, and this video should be something that's always in your phone, saved in your videos, so every time you get set a listing appointment, you can then send this video. Now, you can do this video. There's not an exact script to it, but I'll give you, an example of what's going across my mind right now, and that is this. Hey, it's Greg Harrelson here, and I'm happy to be meeting you about your property and discussing, the things that it's going to take to get it sold and how I can help you. And I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to make sure you heard a little bit about, what I do to sell homes. I think 3 things are really critical, to selling a home. Number 1 is making sure that we present the property properly on the internet. We know so many people are going to be looking on the internet before they even call us to set up an appointment. So I will pay a lot of attention to photography and how it's positioned to make sure that you stand out, on Zillow and Realtor.com and all of our company websites, that you stand out above the competition. Then, the other thing that we'll be getting into, we'll talk a little bit more about price and just make sure that we create the right pricing strategy that not only helps you, reach your goals, but also helps you reach the goal of selling within the time frame that you want to sell. And my goal is not only to get your property sold, but to make sure that I either protect your equity or maximize your sales price. So you can count on that when we meet. And then the third thing, and then you can just share a third thing. Maybe you could talk about marketing. So you create a video that doesn't mention their name, it doesn't mention their address, it doesn't mention the time that you're going to go and do the listing presentation. You just create a little short video, maybe 3 or 4 minutes long, and then you text them and you say, hey, looking forward to meet with you. Here's a video I cut, just thought I'd share a little bit more information, to help prepare both of us for our meeting tomorrow or Wednesday at 3. And hit the send button. And that video you can use over and over and over again to many different people that you'll be presenting to. What you're accomplishing is you're letting them see your face. You're already establishing rapport. I know it's not a two-way conversation, but they're seeing you. They're hearing you talk about, okay, you understand that positioning on the market is important. They hear you saying that, yes, you're going to focus on protecting their equity and maximizing their sales price. And then the third thing is they're going to hear you talk a little bit about what kind of marketing you do and the exposure that you're going to get to make sure that you're creating the demand that'll help them accomplish their goals. So in a way, you're kind of already doing a little pre-presentation and you're sending that to them. And what I know is going to happen is not only will you actually establish more rapport faster when you get there. In other words, they've already kind of seen you a little bit presenting. So when you go in and start looking around at their house and talking to them, you know, they're going to already feel a little bit more comfortable with you. That's the point. See, I believe that the way that the real estate industry is going is those that build the most rapport, yet still make people feel confident in their abilities. It's the confidence in their abilities and them being comfortable with you. Those two things combined is what will land you more listings. So send that video. And then the second deliverable on the pre-appointment is to call them before to confirm the appointment. Like it's Wednesday at 3 o'clock. So Wednesday morning or Tuesday, you may call them and say, hey, I just wanted to touch base and make sure two things. Did you get the video that I sent by text? Oh, yes, I did. Okay. Was there any questions that you had? Yeah, I was just wondering about, marketing. You touched on it a little bit. You said something about marketing. That's important to us. Make a note. Okay, great. Well, that's one of the reasons why I sent that video is we are going to talk about that tomorrow, tomorrow when I come out. And 3 o'clock still works for you. Is that correct? Yes, it still works for me. Okay, well, great. Well, I will see you tomorrow and I'll put a little note here to, make sure that we spend a little extra time on marketing. Does that sound good? Yes, it sounds good. Okay, great. I look forward to working with you. Notice how I end that call. I look forward to working with you, not seeing you. I'm making the assumption before I even go over there that they're going to hire me. Look forward to working with you. Okay, us too. That they'll just naturally say things like that. Okay, now let's go to the pre-appointment routine. So this is your routine. So the first one was the pre-appointment discussion. It's a conversation you have to have with the people before you go on the presentation. Then it's deliverables. It's after that discussion, what do you need to deliver before your presentation? And this one's called the pre-appointment routine. Number one, you must determine the price range before you go to the appointment. Like already, I have a yellow notepad and I'm doing all my research on pricing. And in my mind, I've already determined based on all the information I've gathered and the market research that I've done, I've already determined what type of price I am going to present to them. Make sure that you go in there already. Do not wing it. Do not see how the conversation goes. You have to make sure that you're going in there in your mind with a predetermined price. Now, it can change based on what you see in the house. Yes, it can change, but you need to kind of already know what the range is before you ever get there. Number two is you've got to build their why into the presentation. You've got to build their why into the presentation. And number three, you need to role play the presentation prior to going on the appointment. Now, see, when I said number one, I said you've got to predetermine the price. Number two, you've got to build in their why into the presentation. Number three, you role play the presentation prior to the appointment. Well, I need you to already have in your mind the price, and I already need you to know how and why they're selling and how to build that into the presentation, because without that, you couldn't role play the presentation. So in your mind, if you think it's really worth $189,000 or $247,000, you need to determine that. And you need to be thinking about how, like, because they're relocating because they just had a new child and they outgrown their house, then you need to be, thinking about how you're going to bring that back up into the presentation. Are you going to wait until the end of the presentation when you're trying to get them to sign, and you're going to say, in order to get you one step closer to a bigger home so you have more room, all we have to do now is just go ahead and authorize the marketing papers so I can get in the MLS and help get it sold. Are you going to do it at the end? Or are you going to say, in the beginning, hey, I just want to be very clear. I have 4 children myself. And I know one of the things that we talked about is the fact that you've just had an additional child and you kind of outgrown the house. And, I really take that to heart and am 100% committed to helping you accomplish that goal. Maybe I bring it up in the beginning. But the key is go ahead and role play before. Practice the presentation before you do the presentation. If you're anybody's watching basketball right now, and probably not everybody watches the NBA, it's playoff time, but think about any professional sport. Think about any musician. Think about anybody that's an artist or, really a master of their trade. Before they go into the game, they've already warmed up and role played and practiced the shot. They've already practiced catching the ball. They've practiced throwing the ball. They've practiced moving. They've practiced free throws. They've practiced kicking the ball. So if it's music, they practiced the song before they actually went on stage to perform the concert. If we want to earn the income of true professionals, then we have to emulate true professionals. We want to role play the presentation before we do the presentation. Can you imagine if you took 10 minutes before you went to the presentation and actually went through the presentation a few times? You would feel more comfortable with your presentation. And when you feel more comfortable with your presentation, they feel more confident in your presentation, and they hire confidence. They're not necessarily looking for an agent. They're looking for an agent that has confidence. That's what they're looking for. Then we got the listing presentation, and we'll wrap this one up. The listing presentation, I said here, is like the surgery in the medical field. I've brought this up a few times. You already had the checkup. You've already had the pre-appointment. You've already had the pre-op. You've determined what needs to be done, and now it's time to perform the surgery. But the key is think about all the preparation prior to the surgery. What I'm sharing with you right now is the surgery is important, obviously, but without the preparation prior to the presentation, the surgery couldn't be done. But in real estate, it's done every day. A surgery performed without prep would be malpractice. I think a real estate listing presentation performed without prep is malpractice. I mean, think about it. The real estate transaction on average for an American, it's the largest transaction they'll ever conduct in their life. And we are allowed to go and perform surgery on them. And we don't even have to prep and role play and learn these and ask all these questions. We can just go in and wing it. Well, not us. It's our duty to make sure that we deliver over the top representation to our clients. And this is the way we do it. We follow this routine. So on the listing presentation, number 1, show up on time. Never, ever, ever be late. If you find yourself running a little bit late for some reason, and do not make it a habit, if you do, you make sure you call them and let them know. Don't ask for forgiveness after you show up 10 minutes late. You call them. I mean, there are times where I'm coming in the commute, or I'm going to be 5 minutes late, and I will call them and say, hey, look, I can tell you right now, I'm going to be 3, 4, 5 minutes late, but I haven't forgot about you. I got a little bit of traffic here or whatever the reason is. But even if I'm 5 minutes late, I tell them. Because it's not about being late. It's about how am I going to communicate with them throughout our relationship. See, when I call them and say, hey, I'm going to be about 4 or 5 minutes late. Oh, no problem. And most people wouldn't even call if it was 4 or 5 minutes late. That's my opportunity to let them know that they can count on me to be a great communicator. Because if I'm going to be the person that's going to follow up or tell them I'm 4 or 5 minutes late, then I'm probably going to be somebody who's going to be in communication with them frequently. So that one little opportunity, I'm turning that negative of being a couple minutes late into a positive by demonstrating to them how I'm going to communicate. Number 2 is dress to impress. I understand that your competition probably doesn't wear suits. I get it. But what if you did? I understand that your competition probably doesn't wear jackets. Like, let's just say you just did a jacket, a coat and, some slacks and a nice jacket. I understand your competition doesn't do that, but what if you did? What if you did? Like, I never go into a listing presentation without a jacket. Never, ever, ever, ever do I do that, because I know my competition won't. My competition comes in with a polo shirt without a jacket. That's fine. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying this is an opportunity for you to get an edge over your competition. See, by you putting that jacket on, you show them how important they are to you. Like, I know most of you wouldn't do this, but in Myrtle Beach, we surely get it a lot. People will go with a polo shirt and a khaki pair of shorts and some loafers, right? Some penny loafers without socks. That would be common for, a beach town. Well, you'll get that. Well, then I'm walking in, or our agents are walking in with slacks, a jacket, and it's 95 degrees, outside. And yes, it's 90 degrees or 90% humidity. And yes, it is hot as hell. But when we go in, and they see somebody that came in with shorts and they see us and we're dressed professional, that gives us an advantage. There's no question that people that go in dressed professional get more listings than people who don't. So can you imagine if we show up on time, if we do everything that we discussed already, and then we pay attention to these small little details like showing up on time, dressed to impress, and we pay attention to those little details. Every bit of these things matter. None of these things will get you a listing, but all of these things combined together will get you a listing. Like, if you don't do anything but dress to impress, you're probably not going to get a lot of listings. But if you do every single one of these items, it's going to make a huge difference. There's a compound effect, and it's going to translate to more listings. Number 3, listing presentation, look at the house and build rapport. So you go in, first thing you should be doing is you should be looking at the house. But while you're looking at the house, take an opportunity to say, oh gosh, there's a great screen porch here. Is that an addition or did you do this? Even if you already know or you could tell, it's small talk that helps you build rapport. Never lie to people. Never act like you like something if you don't. I'm not talking about that. But take the opportunity to just kind of break the ice and build some rapport while you're looking at the property and gathering information. Oh, okay. When I drove up, I noticed the roof looks fairly new. It doesn't look too dated. I mean, how old is the roof? Like, that right there will help you build rapport. It's showing them that you pay attention to detail. And then you're asking them questions, so you're drawing information, getting them to communicate with you. Those are fantastic ways to build rapport early on. The 4th one here is never start looking at the kitchen. The kitchen should always be the last room that you look at, because the kitchen is where you want to sit and do the presentation. So you want to get in the house and you see where that kitchen is, you go in the opposite direction and you go look at everything. And then the last thing that you look at is, okay, well, here, look, I haven't seen the kitchen yet. Let me go ahead. Let's take a look at the kitchen. Then you go into the kitchen and you're looking around the kitchen, the cabinets and the countertops and the floors and the pantry space and whatnot. And then as you're kind of finishing looking at the kitchen, you finish where the dining room table is or the kitchen table is. So you always finish your tour at the kitchen table. Don't get caught finishing your tour in the living room, because they're going to ask you to either take a seat on the couch and they're going to be in a recliner or some other chair, or you're going to be in a chair, they're going to be on the couch. And that's not where people conduct business. You have to set up the environment. You've done everything up to that initial conversation to set up the perfect listing presentation. you need to make sure that you do that presentation at the kitchen table. And if they say, well, would you like to sit on the couch? It might be more comfortable. I would love to, but I'm going to have to take a few things out, and it might be a little bit easier for me, to be at the kitchen table in order to stay organized. Do you mind if we just do it at the kitchen table? Oh, no problem. Always do your presentation at the kitchen table. You will close more listing deals. And then, of course, number 5 here is use the script. Use the listing presentation script. Don't wing it. The script is built based on asking a lot of questions. It navigates from the A to Z. It navigates the perfect course for you to follow. Don't be afraid to use the script. If you had a choice, now here's what's interesting. Most people are like, oh, I don't want to sound canned. Okay, let's go back to the surgeon. Surgeon's about ready to do heart surgery, and he knows a certain valve that they're going to work on. And that surgeon has done this surgery many, many times. Do you think he's winging it, or do you think he's following a script? Now, in the medical field, the script is called a procedure. If you were going to a surgeon and they said, oh, yes, I'm just going to kind of go with the flow in this surgery, would you let that surgeon do surgery on you? Would you choose that surgeon to work on a loved one of yours? Or would you choose the one that's going to follow a proven script, a proven procedure, that when we follow this procedure, our success rate is 97%? You would want to follow that surgeon. So what I suggest to you, if you want to get more listings, be that surgeon. Go in and follow a script to present to that seller. And next, always add in some dialogue about what they said they wanted in an agent. Remember, they said, well, we want an agent that's going to be in communication. Then, you don't say to them in this listing presentation, oh, remember 2 days ago when you told me that you wanted somebody that would communicate well with you? I'm that person. Don't say that. Don't remind them that they told you that. You build that into your presentation. Hey, there's a few things that I think that you'll really be happy with. And one of the things is I really take a team-like approach with you, and I want to make sure that you're always informed as to what's going on. So in order to do that, we've got to really be in good communication with you. So here's the process for how I keep you informed. So you don't say, the reason I'm telling you this is because you told me you wanted me to tell you this. You actually leave that part of it out, build this into your presentation, and while they're actually listening to you tell them this stuff, they're thinking, oh my God, this is the agent I've been looking for. Oh my goodness, thank you that I found this agent. This is exactly what I was looking for. They will forget that they told you that that's what they wanted to know. Remember, they tell you what suit you want, and then you come in and you wear that suit. This is me wearing that suit. I'm building that into the presentation so they can feel more comfortable and confident in hiring me, because I am going to deliver the experience that they're looking for. Remember, pricing, I said earlier, always have your price range in mind. So in any presentation, price is going to be, a subject or a topic of conversation. So I always suggest that a real estate agent can never pinpoint an exact price. The definition of an appraisal is an opinion of value, which means it's not a definite value. I've always been confused as to why real estate agents go in and say, your property's worth $272,000. And then the likelihood that that property will sell at that price to the penny is like so unlikely. Like, we never give a person a price, and it actually is that price, or I should say rarely. There's a negotiation. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Sometimes there's some fees or something like that has been negotiated through and whatnot. So there's never a price. So I always say, since we know there's never a pinpointed price, why don't we go ahead and make sure that we're always sharing a price range? Every listing presentation that I've done for years has given people a range. See, we know that there are properties that sell really fast. We know there are properties that take forever to sell. And we know that there are properties that are priced at a fair market value or at a range or at a certain price that when they are, it might take 3 or 4 months. So when I go into a presentation, I'm giving people a range. I'm saying based on the research that I've done, this property will sell anywhere between $220,000 and $230,000. Now, I feel confident that no matter where you price the property within the range, I can get the job done. So what's important to me is to make sure that I'm helping you reach your goals. See, I see a few different strategies. Number one, you could price the property at a very low price and have this property sold probably in less than 2 months. Let's just say $219,900. I suspect we'd get a ton of demand and offers, and we'd probably have this property sold very shortly. Then, of course, you could go at the high side of the range, the 229.9 number, and you have to suspect that it could take 5, 6. I don't think it would take 7 months, but 5 to 7 months to get the property sold based on that price and the current market statistics. And then, of course, you could always go right in the middle. And right in the middle is probably your 3 to 4 month time frame. That if you put it on at 224.9, I suspect it'd take anywhere from 3 to 4 months to get your property sold. So based on the price and the time associated with each individual price, what do you think would be best for you? See, there's my pricing presentation. So I'm not telling them this price, take it or leave it. I'm telling them, here's the price range, because the reality is there is a range. When you look at CMAs, you'll always see a range. So give them the range and then let them know that if they're at the top of the range, that means that they're trying to go for more money and they're willing to sacrifice time. If they're at the bottom of the range, then they're trying to go for a shorter time and they may sacrifice a few dollars. And if they go in the middle of the range, it's kind of like a balance for maximizing price and minimizing time. And I'm okay no matter where you want to price the property. As long as it's within the range, I can get it sold. And then we also know the expectations of how long it may take. So I'm kind of curious, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. I mean, based on the price and time associated with these prices, what do you feel is best for you? Now, 9 times out of 10 or 7 times out of 10, they will pick the middle price. Anytime you give people 3 choices, people usually pick the middle price. They tend to always pick the middle price, which is usually the price that I really want. Every once in a while, maybe 10% of the time, they'll choose the lower price. And we know when they choose that price, that thing's gone. But they're choosing that price because time's more important than money, as long as it's within only a few $1,000s. And then last but not least, ask for the business. Most listing presentations end and there's never an ask. Ask for the business. Don't wait for the seller to say, okay, well, what's next? What do we need to do now? Don't wait for that. Ask them, hey, based on the price ranges, which price do you feel is best for you? Well, I think the middle price. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started with that price, okay? Sounds like we will work well together. All we need to do now is authorize the marketing paper so I can start promoting the home. How does that sound? Or let's go ahead and move forward. Sound good? Use some sort of dialogue to ask for the business. Don't be afraid to ask for the business. If you're feeling a little bit afraid to ask for the business, consider you're just not confident in the presentation. Like for me, if I go through what I just did, I feel so confident in what I'm presenting. I feel like I'm doing them a favor by asking for the business. I feel like I'm letting them down if I don't ask for the business. And quite frankly, if you don't ask for the business, you're sending a signal to them that says when you're working with a buyer, you won't ask the buyer to write a contract on their property. See, if you won't ask them for the business, then you probably won't ask the buyer to buy their home. You have to ask them for the business, so you're demonstrating to them that you will ask for business. It's like one of the last things that you can do in your presentation to show them that you're a confident, strong salesperson. And people, real estate agents sometimes, well, I really want to be an advisor or consultant. There's no sellers looking for an advisor. There are no sellers looking for consultants. There are sellers looking for salespeople. They're looking for somebody to sell their home. And if you get to the end of the presentation and you don't ask for the business, you did all this great work, but then the last thing you showed them is you're not a salesperson, which is exactly what they're looking to hire. So take a, I've got all these on notes. I will likely send a recap video later on the week. Maybe we'll even send these notes out if somebody wants them. All of this webinar will be on our membership site, later on in the week if anybody wants to look at it again. But if you have any questions or conversations, just reach out to me, be in communication. I want to help you become a stronger listing professional. We know that the more listings you have, as an individual agent, the more business that you're going to do, the more stable your business is going to be. So thank you for taking the time. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.